going into Power Rangers, which I guess is a nostalgia property, I have to say, the only reason I watched it was because I watched it with my little brother, and it was the first thing we got into when we were younger. Basically, that and Rugrats, I think, maybe Toy Story or Lion King. Those were like the first things we were ever really into. So he had an interest in the Power Rangers movie. But as I gotta say, I have no real nostalgia for the Power Rangers. I haven't seen anything since RPM back in like 2009, I think it was, and it was okay. I barely remember the old stuff at all. I vaguely remember the characters and shit that happened. I've always wanted to get into, or at least for the last few years, I've wanted to get into the Super Sentai, see how the original was, but I never did. So, you'd think the movie wasn't targeted at me, but maybe because I wasn't hung up on that, I was able to kind of like it, which seems to be not quite a unpopular opinion, but definitely not the norm. Though as far as nostalgia goes, I honestly think like some of the more obnoxious bits in the movie were just those really like awkward references to the original. Like, oh, Rita said, "Make my monster grow," because that's the thing she does. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then, the movie opens with a scene taking place 65 million years ago. And like Zordon and Rita are there and they're speaking this alien language. But like, by the way, I'm going to spoil the shit out of everything. I don't care. Because, yeah, their names were still Zordon and Rita. So Zordon would be like, Rita. And he'd just say Rita like it was a normal name. And it didn't fit the dialect at all. And it was like same with Zordon and Alpha, like a word that didn't exist until the Greek language, like fucking, 3,000 years ago? And this was 65 million years ago. It's just silly. I mean, I guess that's another problem with the movie, is just the verisimilitude in general, where there was that with the language. They mentioned later, like, I guess Alpha picked up English, which is, or he said that English was like a primitive dialect, which, that the thought of primitive made me think of like time shenanigans, and I did remember Time Force being part of the Power Rangers mythos, but I don't think they're going that route, so it was just weird. Then you had other little details, like Jason had a ankle bracelet, which Billy fixed it so that it wouldn't go off when he was breaking the rules, but then it just kind of stopped being a thing, because obviously if it came up again it would just be weird and out of place, probably. But he was like jumping around and fall in water and stuff, and it never broke or anything. Then you have other stuff, like they're told the rules of being a Power Ranger. One of them is like escalation of force. Yet then in the actual fighting, they're fighting a bunch of like little guys, and then Zack goes and gets the Zord and brings the bigger Zord to the smaller opponents, and you're not supposed to do that as a Power Ranger. And just a lot of like little shit like that, but again, if you're going into this for world building, I don't know what to say. But I guess to say something nice about it, I will say it, because like I said, I kind of liked it, and I think what I really got out of it, I'd say, is with the thing with the characters is that they really got across how like there's these awkward loner dudes, and they sort of come together and try and figure out how to work as a team, and it's basically the Breakfast Club meets the Avengers. That's pretty much how I felt about this movie. But I would honestly say, like, as a team, like the whole arc of them coming together, definitely better than the Avengers in that regard. Like, I actually, like, there's like a scene with them talking around a fire, and then where you just really get the sense that these guys really need each other, kinda, and they're like, them coming together is actually pretty satisfying. Like, I heard some complaints about how they don't morph until like the last half hour of the movie, and I thought it was fine, because what works for a TV show isn't going to work for a movie. So in the TV show, they obviously morph by the end of the first episode, which is like 20 minutes. But in the movie, they sort of turned morphing into a thematic element where they aren't able to morph until they come together as a team. So the arc of the movie is them trying to come together as a team, so they don't morph until the end, clearly. So, but I thought it worked in that regard, because I was like, yeah, fine, it's cool, like, again, getting into spoiler territory, Billy dies briefly. It's predictable. So like once he was dead, I was just like, okay, I'm just waiting for him to come back now. But like they take him back to the. They didn't call it the command. It was called the command center, I think, but they didn't call it that in the movie. I just remember that from the show. Maybe I might be wrong, but they brought him back, and like they're clearly like torn up about it, about him being fucking dead. And I was like, oh, like that was, I almost felt an emotion. That was kind of cool. Almost, not quite. That's why I don't know what emotion it was. And as for like the characters themselves, like they were okay. They were, pretty archetypical. Like I really don't have much to say about them. They were just kind of like there. They did what they were supposed to. Trini was kind of like barely there, so she was definitely like left no impression. Zach was kind of wild, but then I don't know, when he opened up at one point, I was like, oh, okay. Like, he's just, again, like, they're all these just lonely fucking weirdos, just kind of don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're dumb teenagers, and I have no problem with dumb teenager fiction. I did a whole video comparing Kokoro Connect and Kiznaiver, which are kind of basically Power Rangers without superheroes, I guess, and giant robots. So I guess I kind of like, maybe I should probably see the fucking Breakfast Club, maybe. Like, I haven't seen it. I know basically everything that happens, I just never actually sat down and watched the whole thing. It's funny, because I already said everything I liked about the movie, but like everything left I really have to say is, like, nitpicks, and stuff that bothered me a little bit. Like, Rita was just the bad guy. She was crazy witch lady, flying around, killing random dudes and stuff. And, okay, I need to talk about the product placement. So, I guess I don't watch enough shitty action movies to really, like have that knee-jerk initial reaction to product placement, like, oh my god, they referenced something that's real, I should get angry. When I don't like it is the only thing I really have to compare it to is Man of Steel, where it was so, like, it was distracting in that the way he composed the frame, like, it was Zack Snyder, I guess. It made it really, like, obvious that it was product placement. Like, there'd be one of the Kryptonians, like, in their black armor, and then you could see, like, the fucking Sears logo way off in the background in full focus, and you were just like, why is that there? Or like they were flying over a building and you could see 7-Eleven or IHOP, or they bashed into a building and you see like an IHOP logo like come into focus while they're fighting, and it's fucking distracting, and it's like, why is this happening? But what happens in Power Rangers is it's a plot element that there's a crystal that has like all the life force of Earth or something, and if it gets removed, the whole Earth is destroyed. It's under a Krispy Kreme donut place. And, that fact did not bother me, because, when I saw people defending the use of product placement in Man of Steel, usually the argument was that it made the world feel more like the real world, where, like, oh, that's a place that would exist in the real world, so of course it was there. But, like I said, in Man of Steel, I found it distracting, but in this case, because, like, they called more attention to it, and that made it more okay for me, I guess. Like, even though it could have been any donut place, it didn't have to be a Krispy Kreme. I was just like, fine, whatever. The parts where it got it, not to say it definitely like wasn't good, or definitely there was like one shot where Rita was walking, and then like a Krispy Kreme cup that was like crumpled up on the ground came into focus. And I was like, no. And then she went into she went into the restaurant, and she got a fucking donut, and she took a bite, and at that point I was like, no, this is too much, I'm sorry. And so they had me at least for a little bit with the product placement, and then they just lost it, so I guess overall negative, but, she just ate the fucking donut, and then Goldar's hand, broke through, and to dig at the crystal, but, it was really dumb, but kind of funny. I didn't find it funny in the theater at the time. I was just like, why is this happening? But now I'm just kind of like, wow, that was fucking stupid. But speaking of, I guess that, like, the movie had a number of jokes. I don't know if I didn't laugh out loud because they weren't funny, or if I didn't laugh out loud because it was a theater. The theater was fucking dead. There was maybe a couple dozen people, and this was on $5 Tuesday, which I should say is like more like $6.45 Tuesday, thanks to tax. But, So this should have been like, I mean, it's not, I guess it has been out for a little while, but, you know, and it's not doing super well, in the box office as I understand it. So there weren't a lot of people in the theater. Like there was like a group over to our left who was kind of getting into it. Me and my brother were just quiet the whole movie, though I could, you know, I could tell when he laughed a bit more than I did. 'Cause, you know, I've seen lots of shit. I kind of just know where the jokes are going, but some of them did. But the closest thing I had to an actual genuine laugh, it was actually interesting because it was like this big tone shifty moment where the Power Rangers go to fight Rita. They haven't morphed yet, so they're just trying, and she kicks their ass, and she actually gets them. She basically has them all tied down, and she's trying to get the information on where the crystal is so she could destroy the world. And Billy knows, and I guess she had some weird. She read his mind, or they didn't bother to explain how she knew, but she did. It was dumb. She's like, she's threatening to kill one of the other Rangers if Billy, and one by one until Billy tells her, and so it's like this kind of almost barely tense, scene, and then Billy's like, it's in a Krispy Kreme, and she's like, what is this? Is this some sort of holy place? And or something like that, where she doesn't understand what it is, and Billy's like, yeah, and it was so silly that I almost laughed. Like that was like the closest, like I said, that was the closest I got to a genuine laugh in the whole movie. And then it goes right back to being really dark and tense when she kills Billy. She drowns him, and he drowns in like a minute, and she fucks off to go through with her scheme, and it I didn't hate it. It was like, I get like, because like I said, that was the funniest part of the movie, and it went that like, I don't know, it was, like I said, definitely not all the emotions landed, but like, I sometimes almost felt things, but maybe I'm just so jaded to action movies that one that wasn't complete fucking garbage in every way I don't know, I don't watch enough. Like, speaking of the action itself, there wasn't a lot of it, but I was okay with that because I don't care for action, honestly. Like, I was just fine with just the characters doing shit, honestly, random bullshit, and I was like this, because they're all right enough to watch, honestly. Like, yeah, if there was another Power Rangers season with these guys, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be into that, maybe, I don't know, for at least an episode or two, but just to see how it is, at least. But yeah, so, oh yeah, the action, so yeah, on the action, you had, I guess at the end, like they were fighting the putties, which are like these big golem things instead of the men in costumes they were, but which was fine, I don't care. But action, I didn't hate it, I guess. Like it was readable, like at least when they were on land. When they were in water, I forget. I don't remember that scene very much at all, but they were fighting the putties on water before they moved to land. But when they were on land, like, I was like, yep, you know, I just saw the big blurs of color. Like, the fact, like, I guess, I don't know, the costumes, not super appealing. I've heard complaints of over-design, but I don't know, in the actual movie, like, action scenes, it didn't bother me because they were just, like, blobs of color moving around, fighting all these gray blobs. Like, I was like, yeah, this is fine. You know, I could tell what's going on. They were just... As far as the action, there was like a moment where they got into their Zords and were heading to the town to fight Goldar and Rita, and the Power Rangers theme played for like 3 seconds, and I was actually like, at first I was like, oh, okay, they're playing that, and then it stopped, and I was actually disappointed because I am a complete and total sucker for playing the opening theme at the most like climactic or dramatic moment. I'll be completely honest, but it was kind of wasted because it was just like a 3 second bit of them moving, and then like they're fighting in the town with their Zords, and it's like Kanye West's Power is playing, and then the Megazord forms, and some orchestral bullshit that I could barely hear was playing, and I'm just like, both of those would have been better moments for the opening. For like, maybe just an instrumental of the original Power Rangers theme would have been enough. You know, maybe not go full out with the lyrics, but like, you know, it felt like a wasted opportunity to me. And speaking of the Megazord, you know, I was talking about how like the whole arc of it was them coming together, but the Megazord was just so kind of like gray and homogeneous. Like I couldn't tell where T-Rex began and Triceratops ended, and I just couldn't tell like what it was just a transformer. I guess it was just some big robot dude, and it didn't look like the original robot. It didn't look like it was amalgamation of the 5 Zords. It was just, yeah, it was shit, basically. And the scene, like, we didn't get a combining sequence. We didn't, it just sort of like, all the Power Rangers got knocked into a pit of magma, and they all died, but not really, because they came out in the Megazord, and it was just really kind of anticlimactic. And then they fought. The fight was, like, big, fine, I guess. I don't know. They did bitch slap Rita to space. That was kind of funny. There might have been an after credit scene. I didn't see it. But when it comes to Zord, like, I guess, like, because one scene that, like, definitely not a subtle scene, but that got across the whole idea of the movie was that, like, Jason was doing these pep talks. Like, oh yeah, Jason was the leader, so he kept giving these, like, little pep talks, and, they were, like, they'd be, like, all, I wouldn't say, like, they didn't overdo it. You could obviously see where he was going with it, but they got across that he was the leader. Though what I thought was interesting about it is because when I watched the trailer for the first time, it started off with, like, this really awkward dialogue about, like, how we're all fuck up kids, and we found these coins, and but I remember I rubbed off my initial frustrations because I realized that those lines probably weren't going to be in the movie, but they were in the movie in, like, a perfectly fine context with Jason talking to the other Rangers and being a leader, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's okay, I guess. And anyway, after one of these pep talks, everyone started, like, raising their hand or fist or something, but it was actually kind of awkward. But what they all raised their hand to show how they were, like, as a team, but they all did something different with their hands. Like, Jason had, like, one finger pointing there, like Kamina or something, and Zach had a fist up, I think. But like, when it was really getting awkward was when Billy held up 2 fingers, like he was doing a V for victory or something. But it wasn't really, like, it was awkward. So, like, I got what they were doing because, they were a team, but they were all doing their own thing because they're all still individuals. But, like I said, not subtle, not graceful at all. But I actually think that would have been better served with the Megazord, where if you could tell, because it's the same idea of them being together but still distinct. And, like, the original Megazord design, something closer to the original Megazord design where you could tell what part is what, would have been better thematically, I think. So it's like, basically, I don't know what the fuck they were doing with the Megazord, because they sacrificed the morphing for a thematic element, but they completely changed the Megazord, but it was, I don't know why the Megazord looks so gray and bland and boring as it does. It's fucking terrible. See, now I'm pissed about it. When the movie, I was like, whatever, and now it's, like, stupid. The only really, like I said, I've heard bad things about it, but most of what I've seen is I watched the Half in the Bag with Mike and Jay talking about it. And they're coming at a different angle. I do have a few disagreements, but mostly they know what they're talking about at the same time. But that's what I want to say. They were complaining about how, like, oh, the 5 kids just happened to be together, and when they found the coins, and I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, they did mention that the coins were, like, calling to them, so I just chalked it up to some fate magic bullshit, and I don't know, it was fine. It didn't bother me. And, like, this was the thing that kind of got me, like, because I watched a trailer a while back. I normally never watch trailers. Like, honestly, the worst part of the fucking movie was the trailers, because it was just like one mediocre trailer after another. Like, the Wonder Woman one wasn't terrible, but, like, there was, like, some fucking awful movie called, like, Spark or something like that, with like some monk, with the main character's like a monkey, like it's like a Journey to the West kind of thing, but it's also in space. But it's like, it felt like one of those fucking movies you'd find in the dollar bargain bin, and it had, like, there was, by the 5th or 6th ad, I was like, please make the movie start, please, I want to die. So yeah, that was definitely the worst part of the movie. But I did watch the trailer for the honestly, the trailer for the Power Rangers was probably the last one I saw before the movie. But like, there was just in the trailer there was this little joke where they all fall into the water and they have the colored aura around them, and Zach's like, I'm black, and then Billy, who's actually played by a black actor, he's like, no, you're not, and he's like, yeah, I am, and he's like, no, you're not. Like, it was just and then there was another bit in the movie where I was like, different ranger colors, different colored rangers, like, and I thought, I was like, okay, because I just like, a little bit down the fucking theater aisle, you got Ghost in the Shell, which is everyone's, freaking out about the whitewashing stuff. I don't care. I'm not going to see the fucking movie. I don't care. But, so I kind of liked how it, I mean, obviously back in the day you had Power Rangers, like they had the black Ranger and the Asian white yellow Ranger and the white Ranger. but like, and so there was like, oh god, it's racist. But I kind of like that they're able to make jokes. They didn't comment on race. They didn't definitely no actual like themes about it, but they made just these little gags that were not even racially, I don't want to say racially charged, but like just pointing out the fact that the characters were different races. And maybe I guess I don't see that enough. Maybe I should just stop watching as much anime or something. But I just thought it was like, it was done in like an innocent kind of way. We got all this fucking stuff with the racially the conflicts and just seeing a movie like it was, I don't know, it was just kind of there, and it was just nice to see it, because I was like, maybe as little as their progress as there's been, maybe there has been some fucking progress over the last fucking, how old is Power Rangers? Like it's about almost my age, I think, like 20 fucking plus years old, 25 years old almost, give or take. So, that was pleasant. So yeah, overall, I have very little good to say, but I still liked it. So I guess I'd give it a 6 out of 10, barely. Like, it's, yeah, a 6 out of 10 I think is how I feel, pretty much. Not sure. I'd probably watch a sequel just because, like, they're gonna get into, like, the shit everyone really remembers fondly, like the Green Ranger and Zed and shit. If there is a sequel, I don't know how successful it's going to be. But I don't know. It'll be cool, I guess. So I guess this is an addendum to what I just said on the Power Rangers, but I realized it a bit after doing the video that I guess the question of why did I enjoy it so much if I had so little nice to say? And I think if you've been following my content thus far, then if you haven't already noticed it, what I'm going to say right now will really just sort of like make everything click into place. When it just comes down to what I really enjoy in my favorite things, because like I like world building, I like a good setting. Not that Power Rangers really did anything notable in that department. I like, thematic ideas, even basic ones, if they're executed just decently enough. Like, I like the process of me sort of clicking everything together. Like, that just feels satisfying. So even though Power Rangers is very basic, it's basic. It's just teamwork and friendship and the awkward nerds coming together. Like, yeah, even though it was basic, it was still neat to see what elements went into it at a storytelling level to make that happen. But I think when I look at all of my favorites, the one thing that's common between all of them is characters. Like, even, like, Madoka Magica, which is something that's been one of my favorites for a while, it's kind of like the shakiest. Like, I feel like if I were to rewatch it, it would be, like, of all my favorite anime, it would be, of all the ones that I might rewatch, that's the one that's most likely to slip into a lower score. That's lower than 10 out of 10. But even then, like, Hamura, at one point I considered her one of my favorite characters. I don't feel as strongly anymore, but who knows how I feel after I rewatch it. But everything else, like Danganronpa, One Piece, Legend of the Heroes, Kaiji, Chihaya Furu, Hidamari Sketch, Real, 20th Century Boys, The Wire, like, all my favorite things have just, like, if not just one good character, like Chaos Head and Chaos Child both had really good main characters. Even if the rest of the cast didn't quite live up to it, like, a lot of things I enjoy just have these big casts of characters who I like all of them. Like, I love all the Straw Hat Pirates. Danganronpa 2, percentage-wise, probably might not be my favorite cast of characters, but in number of characters, like, so many of them are just good. Like, that's just what I really enjoy from the stuff I get into. And so with Power Rangers, even though, its thematic ideas and its characters weren't anything new, I thought they were done more than well enough for me to at least enjoy the whole movie as a whole, even if there were a bunch of other problems with it. So that's just the kind of thing I get out of stuff. So yeah.